Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. My name is Mustafa, and this is another teaching in Muslim Boot Camp on beards. Probably one of the most controversial subjects. I've seen it taught all kinds of ways. I'm going to give you some of the teachers that teach that, it's not necessary, and another one that teaches that it is. So you decide. As we get started today, I want to say one thing, and that's whoever Allah guides can't be misguided, and whoever Allah allows to be misguided can't be guided. So as we determine what we should do, whether we should follow what's called the Sunnah, and that's what this is. It's not found in the Quran per se, but it's found in the Hadith of the Prophet. In fact, it's found in one of the most Sahih Hadiths, and that's Al-Bukhari, and it's considered authentic. So that verse, I'll give it to you. That ayah, I'll give it to you in a little bit. But before we get going, what's the significance? And the significance is following the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, is it a requirement? Is it a practice? Is it makruh? Is it wajib that you have to do it? These are the things that one has to decide. The Sunnah has all kinds of ayahs in there. It has all kinds of hadiths, and does it fall into the general practice of the Prophet? In which it does. This is the general practice of the Prophet. The Prophet grew a beard, peace be upon him. The companions all grew beards. Is it a command that you have to grow a beard? That's the question, see. Now, I listened to Shabir Ali earlier on, and Shabir says that it's not a command. It's not in a command form. Shabir also grows a beard, but he doesn't follow the entire command, because it says grow your beards and trim your mustaches. Shabir shaves his mustache. Have you ever noticed that? This area right here, it's not just trimmed, it's completely bare. And even down to some of his lower lip, around the bottom of his lower lip. That's not sunnah, my friends. That's not the command. Now, when I say a command, if somebody with a higher authority says to somebody in a lower position, and you can take it militarily, okay, if a general says to a sergeant, go and do this and this, does he mean, well, I wish you would go and do this and this. It would be recommended if you go and do this and this. No, if he says go and do this and this, he means go and do this and this. So somebody with a higher authority telling somebody in a lower position to do something is a command. Now, when we see, Allah commanding us to do certain things, does that mean that he would recommend that we would do it if we wanted to get into Jannah, or if he would like us to do it? No, he says do this. Do this. That's a command. And that's a command to us who follow and worship Allah. Now, as we look at this whole thing, there's two better words I think that you could use. One would be mustahab and mandub. These two right here would leave you less doubt as to whether you should follow these things or not. Now, shaving the beard is no big deal for most people, especially in North America where I live. Most Muslims don't have a beard. Now, They don't stand out. I don't know why they don't grow a beard. If the prophet, if the prophet says this, he says, go and pray your 5 prayers a day, and you say, well, nah, you know what? I don't think I should pray 5 prayers a day. I think I'm only going to pray 2. That's all I got to pray. You know, because he doesn't mean that as a command. That's a recommendation that if I want to get into, you know, into paradise, that I should pray 5 times a day. But it's not a command. Yeah, how foolish is that? How does that sound anyway? That's absolutely nutsy. But anyway, what is the consequence of removing the hair from the face? If the prophet has commanded you to do it, peace be upon him, and you don't do it, well, then that's a sin. He says, follow me, right? I'm kind of wondering how that nice clean face is following him, because that's not following him. Every time you put that razor on your face and shave, every time you do that, you're committing sin. Now, it's not for me to say whether you're going to lose your position in paradise or not. It's not for me to say, because that's not up to me. But I can tell you that that is not the command of the prophet. When the prophet says, grow your beards, shave your mustache, grow your beards and trim your mustache. I always want to say shave, I don't know why. But grow your beards, trim your mustache, click, click, click. That's what you should be doing. Then that's what you should do. All right? So it's not just it's not just a suggestion. It's not makruh, something that you might do or benefit from it if you do it. But it's absolutely wajib. You got to do it. I mean, this is something that if you're a Muslim, this is a requirement placed upon you. You look at the sisters. The requirement is to wear a hijab. Okay, this is not a prophet didn't say, okay, sisters, I would request that you wear a hijab. No, that's not the way it was, right? Now, if you want to follow Allah, you follow the prophet. Okay? That's simple, isn't it? By following the prophet, you're actually following Allah. Now, we have 2 things, and if some of you don't realize that in Muslim circles, we have the Quran, and we have the Sunnah. We have the what the prophet did, and that's called the Hadith also. So we follow the Hadith. If it's Sahih, now there's some Hadith that isn't, and there's questions and doubts about it, and those would be probably more in the line of recommendations. You might want to consider that. But if it's in a Sahih Hadith, and I got 2 of the Sahih volumes. In fact, I got Bukhari and Muslim. That's about all I can deal with right now. And if I can memorize and I can understand those 2, which are about 10, 11 volumes apiece, I'm in good shape. I mean, how much more, Of course, you have Abu Dawud, you have some of the others. Maybe I'll pick those up later after I go through these and memorize a good portion of the text of it. So it falls in the general practice of the prophet, which should be your practice. Okay? Now, I know people do it. Some reasons why they don't grow a beard is they're various. There's a lot of reasons why people don't grow a beard, why the brothers don't grow one. And one is they want to blend in, and that's covered in another hadith where you shouldn't make yourself to look like you should be apart from the polytheists, which in what we would call the Christians, because we believe that they have 3 gods. But anyway, we should be apart from them. We shouldn't look like them. We shouldn't act like them, talk like them, do business like them. That's one you ought to get. We shouldn't do business like the polytheists. We should be separate. And this is one of the ways where you can practice part of that by being separate. It's an outward sign of what's inward inside your heart. Growing a beard is an outward sign what's inside. So you think about that. You think about these things that I'm talking to you about, because it's a matter that every Muslim is faced with. Now, some of the reasons, like I said, or maybe you want to do business with the polytheists, and you don't want to stand out and look like, the long bearded Moses, and so they can maybe make fun or laugh or, hey, that Muslim. They don't call you Muslim anyway. They call you Muslim. Every time I ever heard them say it, it was a Muslim. But anyway, that Muslim's got a long beard like Moses. And it cracks me up kind of. So, in a sunnah, it indicates what is obligatory and what is haram. What is recommended. I mean, all these things are in the hadith, and they're pretty straightforward. I mean, it is very hard to kind of mess him up. If the Prophet meant, peace be upon him, that you should consider growing a beard because, well, it might be recommended, he would have said that. He would have said, look, growing a beard it's not something that you have to do, but I recommend you do it. Okay, that'd have been a different thing. Now, that would have been recommended. That wouldn't have been obligatory, where you have to do it. Okay, if you're going to follow him, you got to do it. It's obligatory. There's no way around it. I mean, now a lot of guys, they got positions in the medical field, and once again, I mean, there's always that where you want to look clean shaven, and you might have a Christian wife. I don't know your situation, but generally, the Christian women don't like guys with beards. That's a fact. And I've had them, tell me, "Oh man, you look 20 years older." And to a certain extent, you do. I mean, if you shave your beard and you got that nice smooth face, you look a lot younger. All that gray is gone, And you might be looking at my beard and looking at the thumbnail I posted, and here's the reason why it's short. Another reason why you might not be having a beard is because you got a medical issue, okay? Now, maybe you're going to have facial surgery, and they say you got to shave your beard so we can do the operation correctly, and right? And that's okay. I mean, that's a temporary thing. Me, myself, I've got psoriasis, and it could be inverse psoriasis, which means when I had that long beard, like is on my thumbnail, I started getting psoriasis. I started to dig at it, and I started to get red and infected. So I had to get rid of it to treat that. Okay, after it's treated, start to grow it right back. I mean, that was a medical reason, and that was temporary. Temporary for a medical reason. That's a reason why. My mother's people, my mother was probably 75% Ojibwa Indian. So her people, I mean her relation, weren't able to produce a beard. They didn't grow a beard. That's just the people. If you can only do what Allah allows you to do, okay? If you got the ability to grow one, you should grow one. If you don't have the ability to grow one, you don't have to worry about it, right? I mean, it's simple as that. I mean, you can't grow what you don't have the ability to grow. So you don't have to worry about it. I remember one time I was up north, and I'll tell you this little story because I really got myself in trouble, and I was a Christian back then. I mean, I wasn't someone who was practicing what the Prophet did. But anyway, there was a lady in, I think it was a bakery. And she was kind of turned sideways to me, and this was the first time I came to that bakery. And she had a ponytail, and she had a beard. But I didn't know it was a she. So when I came in, I said, hey guy, wrong thing to say. Because it was a lady, and she got mad at me. I'm telling you. By the time I got my donuts and my date bars, she was about ready to throw them at me and get me out of there because she was mad. She was hot under the collar. Now, she was hot under the collar because I had mistook her for a male. Now, guys, Muslim brothers, that same thing can happen to you. I know some have ponytails, some of the younger guys, and smooth faces, and you resemble a woman. And that same thing can happen. Is that what you want to do? You got to stand out from the crowd that you're around. You got to look like a man if you have the ability to look like a man, if that's what's been given you. So you think about that. Is it sunnah? You know, every time we say sunnah, we think, well, it's recommended that we follow it, or no, this is one of the obligatory things, just like prayer. Just like the example of prayer I gave you. That's obligatory. There's no, I'm going to pray, let's see, for Fajr in the morning, I'm just going to pray 1 rakah. That's it. I don't need to pray more than that. Yeah, I recommend that I do that. How would that go? Does anybody believe that even? And why don't you? Why don't you? That's the thing, see? You don't because you know that that is obligatory. That's something you have to do. All right? But somehow or another, when it comes to beards, you believe that you don't have to do it for one reason or another. So I'd like to hear your comments on that. I'd like to know why, you know, because it's just not sunnah, it's just not following the Prophet. Now, Bilal Phillips had it right, you know, he's the one I got my Islam from, and he said you have to grow your beard, and by removing it is a sin. That's one of the things I learned. Now, when I say you got to grow a beard, often the question comes up, well, how long does the beard have to be? So we go to another hadith, you know, with the companions, and the companions said that a fist below your chin, right here, would be the right length. All right, it has to be mandatory, fist below the chin. All right. Can it be longer than that? Yeah, absolutely. But you're not to trim it any shorter than a fist below the chin. All right? It can be as long as you want. But it can only be that short. So you keep that in mind. That's the way the companions wore theirs. Now, we don't know exactly how long the Prophet, peace be upon him's beard was. We do know he had one. We don't know how long it was. But if we follow the examples of those that followed the Prophet, we're going to know there was a fist below the chin, all right? So, when you look at this overall, this is a decision you got to make. You know, Brother Mustafa can't make that decision for you. I can't tell you anything, whether you should do that or don't do that. You make up your own mind because, you know, I'm not going to be responsible for what you do. I'm going to be responsible for what I teach you. And this is what I'm teaching you, that you need to grow your beard if you're a male Muslim that's able to grow your beard. And you become age, you know, as you're younger, you know, if you're 17, 18, you don't have much of a beard, most men. It's kind of scruffy back then. It gets a little thicker and a little longer later on as you start to get older. But anyway, that is the sunnah. And don't misrepresent it. Don't tell people that, well, it's makruh, it's recommendation, I could do it maybe if I wanted to, but I don't want to. Don't tell people that, because that's not what it is. It's wajib. You got to do it. All right? You got to grow your beard. So I'm going to leave you with that thought. If you want to write me or email me, you can email me at americanislam.ed@gmail.com or americanislam.ed@yahoo.com. I appreciate if if it's a long question or something, that you do it that way instead of posting underneath the video. You know what your thoughts are, because generally people don't look under that video. I mean, I don't look all the time under that video to see what people are posting or what they're saying. I have noticed with the short time I've been on YouTube, about a little over a month and some days, that there's some people that like what you do, and there's some people that want to criticize what you do, and there's some people that want to teach you something new, thinking that you don't already know it, I guess. But I mean, they leave long comments below the video. It's like paragraphs, and trying to tell you, you know, this is what I do. And I guess it's good. But if you want to send me something like that, send it in an email, and that way I can look it over. I can save it. It's there for me to take and examine more thoroughly. That would be the way to go about it. So, Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. I hope you have a good week. I hope you're enjoying Ramadan. And Ramadan Mubarak to all those that are out there viewing this video, and all those that are participating in some way in Ramadan. We ask Allah to bless you, to keep you safe, that you go through this pandemic, and that none of your family are touched by this disease that's going around, this virus that's going around. Well, Assalamu alaikum. Until we meet again, until I got another video for you, salams.